Good morning, everyone. We have a finance panel, and I happen to be friends with all these three wonderful humans. I am going to do the introduction. So we have Tina Clark. People come to her to get money. I got amazing Farid Zaki, who is an accountant and broker and finance advisor. And we have Cate, who is a foodie and motorbike freak, but happen to be in finance as well. And finance is a big topic in business. Sometimes we don't talk about it. And I would like to start with a joke. I know it's a serious topic. I grew up in communist Russia, and when I was little, I really liked summer. But when I grow up, I realize if you have money, you can have summer anytime. So now I just like money. So on this note, we're going to be talking about money, and we will discuss why profitable business slowly going broke. So maybe we start with Farid.
Okay, so I think the most important thing in business is managing cash flow. A lot of people don't differentiate between profit and cash flow. Now, what is the difference? So you could earn income, you have expenses. The difference between the income and expenses is profit, all right? But then you use some of that profit to spend it on yourself, pay expenses, but also pay assets, buy assets, take wages, make drawings out of the business, and then you end up having no money in the bank account. So the issue is when you are in business, you need to make sure that you are recording properly your income, but making sure that you actually are doing your best to increase your prices, because a lot of times the margin might be too small. So you are selling stuff, but you're not making a profit on it, or your expenses are outweighing your income. So we always talk about how can a business improve is look at the top part of the income, make sure that you're reviewing your income, you're increasing your prices as costs are increasing, but also managing your expenses. Because at the end of the day, if you don't do that, you actually will go broke in business. And Cate can maybe elaborate on that more.
Sure. So I would love what you said about loving money, because if you have money, you can have summer anytime. And what I was thinking of when you said that was that I talk to lots of business owners all of the time. And the thing I hear a lot is, I just want more money. I work 50-hour weeks. I'm getting paid less than my kid at McDonald's. Wouldn't it be nice? Maybe Woolworths is hiring. How bad can it be? So I hear all business owners like, I want some more money. I'd like to make more money. How do I get more money? But the last thing that business owners actually want to do or talk about or look at in their business is money. And at the risk of being cliched, I will caveat that with cliches exist for a reason, is that what gets managed gets measured. No, I will try that again. What gets measured gets managed. And so all of the strategy that Farid's just talked about is 100% on the money if you do it. And I think a lot of business owners just don't like this thing that they say they want so much. I want money, but it's the last thing I want to look at, right? And there's this really weird culture in Australian small business where, and there's no other hire that a small business in Australia will make. Like they will hire a bookkeeper or an accountant and then never speak to them again unless they are on their knees begging, right? You can't even hire a lawyer that way. You have to instruct a lawyer. But small businesses in Australia, they hire a bookkeeper, they hire an amazing professional like Farid, and then they never talk to them again. They don't check their output, they don't put KPIs in place, they don't integrate these highly paid, highly valuable professionals into their everyday business operation. And today we're talking about cash no to cash flow. And that's actually a conversation around bringing these strategies and tactics into the light and doing the thing that you guys all know what to do, right? Cash flow isn't hard. It's not rocket surgery, as my son likes to say, right? Cash flow has two main components, and you don't have a cash flow problem. Cash flow is a symptom. It's a symptom of profit and or hygiene. That's it. Super simple. If you read the CPA book, sorry, Farid, the technical accounting thingies, I'm not an accountant, thank God it's holy. They'll talk about the 7 drivers of cash flow and inventory days and margin, and I think, yep, that's great. It's 2 things. It's you've got a profit problem or a hygiene problem or both. But cash flow is a symptom of either of those things. If you get hold of your advisors and you bring that management into the everyday of your business and you dumb it right down, right? I don't want fancy spreadsheets, no death by spreadsheet in any of my programs at all. And you start to manage the 3 to 5 core metrics in your business that tell your business if you're going okay, if you have sufficient profit to cover your cash flow requirements, then all of a sudden, back to the cliche, what's getting measured is getting managed in your everyday business operation. And all of a sudden, your cash flow starts to improve, your profit starts to improve, your business management starts to improve, your operations start to improve, your marketing gets put under a microscope. Let me tell you, that's always the first one that gets looked at. But that's a symptom of looking at your broader business management and actually bringing financial leadership and financial performance into the light, instead of saying, I want money, I want money, I want money, but I don't want to talk about it. And then when you've got a plan in place and when you've actually recognised those simple metrics, we can come and talk to people like Tina about then leveraging cash flow, solving short-term solutions, and making sure that we have a profitable business that is profitable enough to sustain its cash flow requirement and not go quietly into liquidation, which we're seeing a lot of in the current environment. So Tina, I might throw to you and we can talk about some of the short-term solutions and then longer-term cash flow solutions that you have.
And just, Farid, you said that people buy their equipment outright to start off with, so it sits on your balance sheet, which is all very good. But how do you leverage that money? So if you actually sort of look at financing that equipment to start off with, you put it into solid monthly payments, or fixed monthly payments, I should say. Take it out of over the term that works for you. You can negotiate with the finance companies. Works for you. So it's still on your balance sheet, but then you're using the monthly payments to sort of go back into your cash flow. So you're not just put out $50,000. You're now using that 50 grand to sort of make you money to pay your staff, to do everything else. And when you know you've got a big bill coming, there's also the cash flow payment, cash flow funding that we can get. There's different ways that you can fund your business. You've got inventory finance, if you sort of want to fund some inventory coming into it. You've got a big bill coming up, or you need to buy some stock before you sell it out. We've got cash flow funding that you can do for a short term, just to get you through the hump. It is only a hump scenario. It's not for the rest of your life scenario. It is to get you to the other side. Of course, the asset finance as well. Put that on the drip. Depreciation is also tax deductible, which is a cash, not a cash. What is the word? Non-cash expense. Sorry. And there's many different ways that you can get financing for your business and stuff. And Farid's sort of a good one to see that as well. And of course, so the tax office is not breaking down. That would be lovely if it broke down. It's cracking down. The tax office is cracking down at the moment, and I'm stuck in this cycle of having to pay tax before I've actually earned the money. So I'm looking at ways to sort of make that work for me as well, because they want their bills, but I haven't earned the money yet. So how do we get around that as well? So, yeah.
And I think to summarize for you the question you asked, Oksana, I say in business, when you are running your business, is very similar to you driving a car. What do you do when you're driving a car? You're usually doing two things. Firstly, you're looking at your rear view mirror to make sure that there's no one coming and crashing on you, but you're also looking forward as you drive forward in your business. And that's really the strategy piece. It's really important. So looking back in the mirror, that's the compliance part of things. That's doing your business activity statements, doing your tax return, doing things that happened yesterday. But looking forward, which is more important really because you are going forward, is that's where the strategy is. That's when you need to look at your cash flow. How can I improve my cash flow? How can I look at my expenses? How can I reduce some of the expenses? Is there any way, instead of buying an asset outright, can I finance it? Because this way, rather than me spending the money all together, I am spending a little installments. So it's really important that you do the two together. Look at the mirror every now and then to make sure that no one is going to crash into you. But it's very important that you have to have the strategy to look forward. Because guess what? If you're driving a car, you're not looking forward. Where you're going to land, you're not going to land in the pole. And that's exactly what happens with businesses, and badly.
But I think it's also sometimes you need to use the brakes. And my question to you, firstly, Cate, talk about metrics. So I'm curious, businesses, what sort of metrics they need to look at, number one, because statistically, I think in the first 5 years, 70% of businesses shut down, because I think, and I'm a business owner, I had an idea, I started the business, I just like the idea. I never see it and look at the finance and how much money I'm gonna make. You just have an idea, you don't have a strategy, and you just run with that. And Michael Gilbert talk about it in E-Myth. And another question, it's kind of three questions in one. If you not profitable and going to accountant, I think people don't go talk to finance because they don't want to find the truth, right? The truth is you're not making money. And if this is to be a case, for how long you have to be hopeful and keep going, and where do you need to say, look, it's not profitable, I just need to cut the losses and do something else, or get the job. So where does this strategy and talking about finance sit in the business perspective?
Do you want to answer?
Wow. That's not a little question or anything. So let's break that one down. Let's start with core metrics because it's quite a logical progression. So when we're working with small businesses, there's usually 3 to 6. And there's a 3 to 6 numbers, not graphs, not death by spreadsheet. I said we don't try not to do that. But there's usually 3 to 6 numbers that you should have eyes on every day. And if you're a fan of traffic lights, you know, if that number is in the green, you're good. If you're red, maybe look at it. If it's orange, look at it. If it's red, oh God, fix it now, kind of traffic light systems. So in my control room program and in my professional services practice, we work with the first metric, which is a Cate metric. I'm sorry, you're not going to find it in a textbook. It's called MVP, Minimum Viable Profit. And to kind of wrap it to your second question, profit is not negotiable in a business. Even in a not-for-profit business, profit is not negotiable. And break even, I think, was the most devastatingly damaging word that accountants, Sarmel Love, ever came up with, because break even doesn't cut it. Break even will send you broke, because if you're breaking even, you're not covering your non-operating cash flow, which is our second metric. So minimum viable profit is a calculation. It's very loosely calculated by your non-operating cash flow plus owner returns, which is your risk pay, you know, your danger money, because taking on a company is both a civil and a criminal risk to you as an individual, as the director. and then an allowance for tax, because we have to pay all of those things out of profit. That's a very simplified version, but I'll just repeat it. It's your non-operating cash flow, which is your first metric, an owner return, which can be what it is meaningful for you, an allowance for tax, because you can have the most optimized tax environment, but someone pays it somewhere, and it has to be paid from profit. So minimum viable profit is our first core metric. We have to be hitting that, and we have to be hitting it all the time, because if we don't, we do not have sufficient profit to pay for our tax bill, our non-operating cash flow obligations, and us as directors and business owners. We're not paying us for the risks, the significant risks that we're taking, and the effort, the blood, sweat and tears that we're all pouring into our businesses, right? So that's our first really core metrics. The second you'll all know about, your gross profit margin or your contribution margin. You have to know what that is off the top of your head, because that determines what your calculated revenue target is. The second one is your operating expenses. The monthly operating expense for your business doesn't change unless you change something about how your business operates, of course. And when I see business finances, I see these P&Ls with 1 month over here and 1 month down there and $50,000 this month and $20,000 next month. That's just an indicator to me of poor accounting practices. And when I coach business owners, I want to say, when I'm looking at your numbers, I want to know that you have a business problem, not a data problem. And so when we're building, and as I was mentioning earlier, measuring what matters into the daily business rhythm, that way we have assurance that when we're looking at those numbers, we don't have data problems, so we can identify business problems quickly and jump on them and course correct, being agile, which small businesses have to be to maintain a cash flow position that's profitable and positive. And so, at that very basic level, minimum viable profit, which means you have to have known your non-operating cash flow metric, your operating expenses, and your contribution or gross profit percentage are the 4 absolutely non-negotiable metrics. I will add into that your cost of acquisition ratio, also known as CAC, so cost of client acquisition cost. Lots of different coaches have lots of different acronyms for it, but if you boil it right down, what it costs you to bring in every dollar of revenue to your business. So they would be my top 5 metrics that you should have, A, in your head, but B, also on a screen, so that you can see what's going wrong as soon as it is going wrong, so that you can address it, course correct, be agile, pivot if needed.
Change your marketing team.
Or do that. There's a lot of that goes on. And I'd like to sort of note that revenue was not one of those metrics that I've mentioned. Revenue, when you have your financial operating model really dialed in, revenue is just a calculation. I have to hit this to make all of that work. Can I? Okay, let's go and do it. Or adjust the model. It's that simple. And none of this is complicated, but we have this little culture that I was talking about earlier of, I don't like it, I'm not going to. That's what my accountant's for. And I will guarantee that your accountant is not talking to you about your cost of acquisition ratio in relation to your operating expenses and revenue calculations. It's just not what they do. Coming back to Farid's analogy, your accountant is looking in your revision mirror. And that's essential. We have them in the cars for a reason. But if you are driving your car while only looking in your revision mirror, it's going to end badly, probably, unless you're really, really lucky. Yeah? And so that would be my 5 metrics that are non-negotiable. And that minimum viable profit concept is, I think, the first thing that business owners need to understand before putting that model together.
Thank you.
And I would add the fact that you need to add your wages to that calculation, because at the end of the day, as business owners, we usually pay ourselves sometimes if we pay ourselves. And that is not a good model, because at the end of the day, if I know that I have a commitment to pay X amount every week or every fortnight, guess what? I'm going to work really hard to make that money. So my advice to you is pay yourself first, for two reasons. The first reason, it pushes you to actually do something about it, because you've paid yourself and you need to make up the money. But the second thing, it really gives you an incentive to stay in business. And you mentioned that, Oksana. I don't want any business owner to leave their business and get a job. All I want them to do is make more money, increase your prices. If your costs have gone up over the last 2 or 3 years, why haven't you reviewed your prices? There's a lot of businesses that haven't reviewed their prices for years. How can you survive if the cost of the business have gone 20, 30, 40% up? There's no way you can make money. So I think if you force yourself to make a salary on regular basis and treat yourself as the best employee in the business that requires to be paid, you will actually be incentivized to make it better. And focus on making sure that at the end of the day, it's really about, why am I in business? I am in business because I'm passionate for what I do in business. But guess what? It's not a charity case. You're not in business to be a charity for other people. You're in business to continue on in business. And to continue on in business, you got to make money. It's as simple as that. I think money is a taboo thing. A lot of people get scared to talk about money. If you are giving value to your customer, don't be scared about asking for money, because you are giving them value. Your time is worth money. You are worth the payment.
Thank you.
I've forgotten what the question was.
Yeah, do you have anything to add? Or maybe the question, one of the part of the question, how long do you think, if you're not making money, because business changes, right? How long before you actually look at the numbers and face the truth and say, I should really stop with this business and do something else? Have you had the clients who saying, look, I can't lend you money because how are you going to pay?
That's exactly right. And if you start looking at your cash flow, you go through your bank statements, and every month or every week, there's nothing there. An overdraft is not going to fix it. So some people go and get an overdraft or a cash flow, or try and get an overdraft or a cash flow lending, but your business is actually not making any money to cover that. So you just keep going around and around in circles and not getting there. And it comes a time when, you just have to go, well, I know what my I know what my bottom line is supposed to be, what I need to make, and if you're not making it, then you just need to have those hard conversations. And it's like knowing what your cash is. You just need to look at yourself in the mirror and going, you didn't fail, you didn't do anything, it just didn't work at this moment in time. It's all a timing thing as well in business. We all can have these grand plans, and then something happens, or I don't know, the world falls. We get COVID. Who ever saw that coming? And then next minute, you're ending off somewhere else that you don't want to do. So you need to learn how to pivot as well. Not that we like that word.
I think it's also very important to know when to pull the plug before someone pulls it for you. Because having done a lot of this over the last 4 years with clients who are very near and dear to me, and also just mentees or people in the business communities that I support, it is much better if you pull the plug and you go in actively into a VA, a liquidation, or an administration than someone putting you in it for you every time. It is more empowering, it is much more of a relief. And I think the first step is sitting and talking to someone who can support you with understanding your position and where you are now and what you can do. And I think one of the things we haven't talked about is cash flow is one thing, profit is one thing, but business is hard, and it's really hard right now. And we don't talk about personal energy and the toll that can take if you don't have the get up every morning to do a turnaround, and a turnaround is a big deal. Again, I've done a lot of these over the last 4 years. A business turnaround takes a personal toll, as well as needing the finance and needing to pay the really good accountants to make sure that you're across your numbers at all times. If you don't have the personal energy to stick it for the 12 to 24 months that it's going to take, call it, because it's not worth it. No business is worth your family, your friends, your kids. So I think being really mindful of the personal energy you need to put into a business in distress is one of the first things we need to look at, and not one of the last things to be sort of, oh, how are you feeling like later? That's a really important consideration.
And I think I'm in marketing, I've been in marketing for 100 years, and I think marketing and sales, when people say I can just do the fundraising or borrow the money, and borrowing the money, if you don't have a customers coming in, not gonna fix it. You're just kind of extending the absence of customer for longer, but it's not gonna fix the problem. So you need to look, if I have a product, if I have a service, do actually I have a customer for that? And maybe use the human design approach when you go and say, if I would have this product, would you buy it? What is the price that current market would pay for that, before we actually saying it's a good idea, and then 3 years later we go, oh my God, this was a good experiment. They say experience is what you get when you didn't get what you really, really wanted. So I would like to maybe open to the floor, guys, if you have any questions about finance to our panel. Yes, great.
Thank you. What if you have employees that are detrimental to your business, but they don't work as well as you do, and you feel like you're working harder to pay their wages?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a really common question. So let me ask you, if you've got employees in your business and they're not working as hard as you, and you're working harder to pay their wages, what do? What would you advise your business bestie to do? Yep.
This is the problem with my industry. My husband's a plant mechanic, and plant mechanics go to the mines. So the good ones are far away, and the ones that are left, they know they're in really high demand. So they're going to go where the money is, and they're also not going to necessarily work really hard, because they think, well, you need me more than I need you, because I can go there and I can make more money.
Look, it is part of what's making business really difficult in Australia at the moment, small business particularly, because small business doesn't have the margin buffer to go and buy the talent when it's in short supply, right? And so what I'll bring you back to is people don't only work for money. And I've coached some small businesses in similar parallel industries up in the mines, where we've run marketing campaigns around culture, around employee to company fit, around other benefits, around not salaries. And then we get ruthless with employee management and HR. And unfortunately, it's a really hard road. It requires a lot of self-work and reflection and holding a line, which when you have that, but what if they leave because I can't replace them concern, which is completely valid, is a really challenging place to sit in and to honour from a, holding the line perspective. There are solutions. There are a lot of consultants who work with companies on that HR front, on building company culture fit, on marketing campaigns for employees specifically in your industry. I can put you in touch with a few. Just come and grab me at Tina's stand later, because I'm bumming a stand off her. But it is really, really hard. And I think it's one of the bigger challenges in small business at the moment is the reduced labour pool, the, having to buy talent in an incredibly competitive marketplace, especially in some of those really niche trades.
I do find that, you know, you put things in place like you have a barbecue once a month and everybody gets together, and you have a Christmas party, and you have, you know, incentive cards. We've tried all these different things, but at the end of the day, sometimes they just feel entitled.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you go to, and I'll hand over to Farid in a minute, who's like almost grabbing the microphone from me. And then you have the other metrics in your business to look at. So if that's actually the cost, then what can you do with your pricing? What can you do to reduce costs elsewhere? And it's always a multifaceted problem-solving approach, right? There's never one solution to any one problem. There's always a myriad. Farid?
I think employment is really the hardest thing we face in Australia, and I agree with what you're saying. Investigate every single employee separately, because what makes one employee tick not necessarily makes the other tick. Okay, so one might like the idea of the barbecue or a gift voucher, one might like extra money, one might like a holiday, whatever it is that they like. I think it's also important that, like Cate said, find out what the culture is of the business and make sure everybody is aligned in that culture, and attract people that are similar, and expect that if you can get 70% of what you as a business owner can do, you are blessed. Because realistically, from an employment point of view, if they can go 70% what you do, that will be good. One last thing that is really important, it's can you do your top line where you basically increase your pricing to the point that you can afford to give those employees what they want or not. I know sometimes it's really hard, but
It's hard in the Hawkesbury because it is a poorer area.
yes.
So the Hawkesbury people are struggling as it is. So people don't always want to pay what you'd pay in Sydney, because like even if you go to the supermarket in the Hawkesbury, things are a bit cheaper. The fuel is cheaper out in the Hawkesbury. So I think they expect things like us to be cheaper.
Yeah, look, obviously that's an issue. I guess when you are going in an area where prices are already low, you really need to add more value than just the price. But then how do you add the value?
Well, we're a one-stop shop. So
Okay.
we work on plant machinery, we work on cars, we work on radiators. So we're trying to kind of make our own brand so that we have a bit of everything. And we're doing quite well with that, but it's just motivation.
Yeah,
You know.
I think what is good, you mentioned Hawkesbury, the area is people are very localized. Everybody knows everybody and everybody loves everybody. Okay, they might also hate some other people. So as long as you're in the loved version, that's good. I think as a business, it's always a struggle. And employment is really the biggest issue that we have in Australia, unfortunately. And the more the demand is for that specific employees, then the higher it is. But I think lowering the expectation a little bit, but finding about what does the employee find exciting to continue on to business, because I found that after COVID, things have changed completely. People's alignment is different. The days where you go and work for 40 years in a business, work 50 hours a week, every week, that doesn't happen anymore. People find, and if you think about it, me and you are thinking the same as well. So it's no different employees. So it's basically adapting to what is it that we can provide them. And maybe what you can do is get the community involved in the issue. Discuss with that, like maybe over a barbecue, just explain to people, you know, I haven't put my prices for the last 5 years, but guys, I can't keep shop open if I don't do that. And give people an option. Say to them, would you rather me close and you have to drive 2 hours for the next service provider, or would you rather me increase my prices? And also is increasing prices, increase prices no matter how small they are. If you do 1%, 2%, 3%, it's better than nothing, but do it regularly. So don't sit on something for 5 years and then all of a sudden you want to increase your price.
You need to talk to my husband.
I can organize that. My office is in Norwest, I can drive to Hawkesbury.
I've sort of got nothing to say because I think you guys have covered most of it. So.
Basically, the answer is if you don't want to be disappointed, lower your expectation. But I wonder if, it's a balance. I wonder if in your area you have businesses that actually do it successfully. And can you go and talk to them and learn what have they done to keep their employees? Because I always find in life, when we think it's not possible, if it's difficult, if we just find, if somebody, let's say, I don't know, you divorce and you have 17 kids and you think, I can't do it, then you go, if anyone in the world done it, it means that you just have different point of reference. So you go to find another business, maybe it's a bakery, and they have a great culture, and they say, I see how you're flourishing. What actually do you do that these people love working here? And see how you can apply. And you can learn from different industries as an example. So anyone else have a question? No? Anything else you want to add, guys? I don't know how much. Tina has a question. Wonderful.
I want to talk about financial wellness, if you allow me to talk. This is a serious subject. Being in business, we talk about mental health a lot. Financial pressures add to the value and to the stress of being in business. And financial wellness is something that we should be talking about. If you are in business and you are struggling, please reach out and talk to someone early enough, because at the end of the day, there's no point in you trying to go along because it's only going to get worse. I think it's a taboo thing where we think if I'm not doing good in business, then I must be doing something wrong. Don't be embarrassed. Talk to your accountant, talk to your bookkeeper, talk to your business coach, whoever you are actually spending time with in your business. Please do not hold that information if you're struggling. Obviously, psychologically, it adds to the pressure of the psychological wellness. So I think Tina's question was about measurement. How do we measure a lot of these metrics that Cate has mentioned? It's about getting on top of your figures regularly and having somebody looking at those on a regular basis, that looking back, but also looking forward. Not just looking back, looking strategically forward. And Cate can add a little bit more to that.
Yeah, so actually I thought that was a really good question, Tina. Like, how do you measure your non-operating cash flow? How do you measure your minimum viable profit? How do you know what your operating expenses are and what they're going to land? So that's a combination of deliberate design, right? Coming back to my first sort of statement, you guys, you business owners, you crazy, right? You were like, spend 50 hours designing a website, and you're going to do product, and then you're going to like get into logistics, and it's like, cool. And I'm like, let's design how your money's going to go. And they're like, no, I don't want to. I'm like, let's design how you're going to make money. Nah. Like, really? No. Like, I'm begging you guys. So deliberately designing how you're going to see those numbers. And sure, you might not want to do that on your own. That's okay. That's why you get a Farid, get me in, talk to Tina. But a really skilled bookkeeper, a really skilled financial accountant, not tax accountant. Okay, very, very different people. Will actually sit down with you and go, great, how does your business work? What data do we have? Where do we have it? Where can we see it? I'm a really big fan of dashboards. So a dashboard is just a bit of software. There's 1,000 different kinds, and it sucks data from wherever it is for your business. A little bit might be in Xero, a little bit might be in Simpro or Arrowflow or Procore or whatever you're using in your project, or QuickBooks or whatever, and then it might combine it with the marketing metrics that you're getting off your socials and your dashboard. So you've got your cost of acquisition ratio, which is that really, really important metric, right? And so that you have simple numbers, 5 to 6 simple numbers. Not something that you have to look at and understand and like big spreadsheets, just something that's kept up to date by a skilled technician all of the time. And the other little cliche that I'll lean on today is that you just cannot say your own shit, right? You cannot coach yourself. If you're a coach, you must be getting your own coaching, right? If you have a business coach who does not have a coach, kill them immediately. No, not literally, sack them immediately, because it's one of those tenets of coaching. You cannot coach unless you're being coached. You can't see your own numbers. I made that mistake myself, like badly. I'm like, I'm all over this. I can do my own stuff. So not. You cannot see your own shit. You can't. So that's why you have highly paid professionals in your business so that they see it and then they drive that conversation with your leadership. The biggest mistake that small business owners make, founders make, is they abdicate financial leadership to accountants or VCFOs. You are the leader of your business. You would never abdicate leadership of marketing. You would never abdicate the leadership of product, of team, of revenue. And you all abdicate leadership of financial performance. So that's the 1% you can change today. Be the boss, be the leader. You don't have to know how to do it, and you don't have to have the answers. You just have to be prepared to ask for them and demand them.
Yeah. And I think it's important to find the right people, right? Because it's million accountants and million marketing people. How do you find the right one that, have a knowledge and deliver? Because a lot of time businesses say, oh, I give it all to accountant, and the accountant was useless, and then what's happened to your business, right? So I think taking time to find the right team, that people you can trust and you can talk about future rather than, some of the accountants just, they record the history and you cannot move forward with the history. So I think it's important to find trusted, don't make a decision, go talk to the people, ask for recommendations, so make sure you find the right person.
And I add to that advice, when you do have the right accountant that is giving you the right advice, please execute it. Because the worst thing that we actually do a lot of times, I can be a driving instructor. You are the one driving the car. I can't make you drive the way that I want you to drive. It is your business. You have to drive it. So if you are getting good advice, please follow it, because at the end of the day, there is no financial sin that we haven't seen. And that's how we tell you how can you get out of these financial problems, but just listen to the advice and please, please execute it.
Okay.
I was going to say, please don't listen to the man at the barbecue.
Yes. Yes.
Please don't get your financial advice from your person at the barbecue or my friend, and especially when I'm working in finance and they talk about rates all the time. Yeah, no. The rates are never the same for you or me or thing. No one ever talks about their problems behind the scenes. They'll go, oh, I got this really good rate of 5-point-something%, which is not in the market anyway, but anyway, 5%. But they don't ever tell you how they got that rate. They've got 10 properties, they've got this and that. You never know that person's situation at the barbecue. So don't go, oh, my friend did this really good deal. It's not the right advice. Please get trusted advice. Speak to people that actually know what they're talking about and listen to them, not the man at the barbecue. Pretty please.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for your insights, and thank you for your attention and questions. And please find the guys and have a chat. And if you have any questions, get your finance sorted. And I hope you have summer all year round, because you're making a lot of money. So enjoy your day.